So our government's been in office for only 85 days. We were sworn in 85 days ago, and I'm pleased to report to Albertans that we hit the ground running, focused on jobs, the economy, and pipelines, on standing up for Alberta and making life better for Albertans, and we are delivering on those commitments. We did so through the 7 weeks of the spring legislative session, passing 13 bills, which I think is without precedent in Alberta legislative history, bills that are generating new economic growth. And in fact, I'm very pleased to report that we see strong signs of economic renewal in Alberta. StatsCan has reported that 10,000 new jobs were created in Alberta in June, mostly full-time private sector jobs, and mostly here in the hard-hit city of Calgary. Both the Toronto-Dominion Bank and the Conference Board of Canada have recently raised their economic growth projections for our province. Last week, TD issued this report, Alberta's Economy Gaining Traction, in which they have upgraded their economic forecast for Alberta, saying that, quotes, recent encouraging data have added credence to the view that economic growth in Alberta is gaining traction. And they said that this was thanks to increased business activity and confidence, quotes, in recent weeks. In other words, since this government came to office and began our pro-growth policy agenda. We've seen similar upgrading of Alberta's economic growth forecasts from the Conference Board of Canada. Urban housing starts have totaled nearly 2,700 in June, a spike of nearly 22% compared to the same month of last year. And international oil prices are stable, and the differential for Western Canadian Select has shrunk to less than $10 a barrel. Oil producers, I should say, are looking to increase production and shipping more crude by rail. And there's been a modest return of international investment to the oil sands in our petrochemical sector. Multiple liquefied natural gas projects are moving forward, thanks in part to widespread government support in Canada for new gas pipelines. And our government has delivered on our commitment to build alliances across the Federation to help us get a fair price for our resources. I was pleased to host here 5 of our premiers from across the country who are completely aligned with Alberta when it comes to building pipelines, energy infrastructure, opposing the carbon tax, and supporting economic growth. And I was very happy, both at the Western Premiers Conference that I hosted in Edmonton, as well as the Council of the Federation in Saskatoon, to see a growing number of provinces supporting Alberta's economic agenda, including, for example, the decision of Quebec Premier Legault to intervene alongside us at the Supreme Court of Canada in defense of provincial taxpayers and provincial jurisdiction against the threatened federal carbon tax imposition. I was also pleased to see at the Council of the Federation that 12 of the 13 premiers signed on to the vision of creating economic and energy corridors, both east to west and north to south, including oil pipelines. So clearly we see a growing number of allies across the country. I was also pleased with the support that we received initially from the Senate of Canada in rewriting Bill C-69, the No More Pipelines Law, and Bill C-48, the tanker ban, of which the Senate Energy Committee had sought to veto. Unfortunately, as we know, those bills were since revived by the Trudeau government, but at least it demonstrated that when we tell Alberta's story to people across the country, that many Canadians are willing to listen and help us to get a fair deal in the Federation. And so with all of those measures, we're excited about the action that we have achieved, the momentum under this government. We have a lot more heavy lifting to do. We're discussing, for example, the upcoming budget, which we anticipate in late October, and the challenges that we're going to have to restore fiscal balance to Alberta, to preserve our public services, and prevent this province from sinking in a sea of debt in the future. So with that, I'm pleased to report to Albertans that after 85 days, not even 3 months in office, that we are keeping our promises, that the economy is growing, and that we're making progress. Happy to take your questions.